Been warned recently about the death of the middle class in Australia. Now, what does that mean? Well, it essentially means that if you don't have rich parents, you're stuffed. If no one's given you a leg up, you're going to struggle to get by. So we'll have really rich people and really poor people and not so many in between. Now, this is an issue which has been covered recently by a YouTube creator known as Spanian. Now, his real name is Anthony Lees. He makes videos and he shines a spotlight on some of the most disadvantaged areas in Sydney, in Australia, and in other parts of the world. And as I said recently, he meets the people who are often ignored. He highlights what's actually going on. For example, in Claymore, he showed us all the empty public housing units, even though people are struggling to get into a home. In Aids, he showed us that because of all the shoplifting, all of the shelves are empty at the local IGA. In Redfern, he showed us people living in tents inside units because there's water coming in through the roof. These are the real people, and these are people who are struggling at the moment. Now, our next guest, Spanian, is no saint. Let's make that clear. He is a former criminal. He's done 13 years behind bars. He's done some bad things. He admits that. He doesn't sugarcoat it at all. And I appreciate the fact that he's come into the studio. He does have a message for younger people out there who might have been a bit like him when he was growing up. He says, sort your life out earlier than I did. Spanian, thanks for coming in the studio.
How are you, mate?
Yeah,
Easy.
good. How old were you when you sorted your life out?
Probably the last time I was in prison before I got out, which 2016, 17, so I was like 31. Took that long.
We're going to chat about your life a little later on,
Yeah.
but I just want to kick off with some of those suburbs and what you showed there. First of all, Claymore. When you're walking around Claymore, you could see the shock on your face because you're hearing all the time, like us, there's a shortage of houses. There's all these empty houses everywhere, right?
Yeah, Claymore spun me out. I always knew Claymore was like really hood and run down like that because obviously being in so much jail, heaps of boys from jail were from Claymore and they'd always say Claymore's like, you know, it's heaps bad. So I was dying to get there, you know what I mean? I think sometimes, I'll say straight off the bat, I think people give me a bit too much credit for my intentions. I know like a byproduct of what I do and the content I make, it goes to everything that you just said. But I'll be honest with you, the reason that I go into the hood is because I feel like that's my upbringing, that's my people, and that's a natural place for me, you know. I like going in there and seeing how people live, not for any political motivation, but, you know, like...
Yeah, so the discoveries are just a consequence of the visit, but at least you're actually going there because you make this point. A lot of these people don't have anyone to come and visit them or anyone asking them what's going on in your neighbourhood. And when you went into Aids and you go into the IGA... I mean, I've lived in Sydney my whole life. I couldn't believe it. You got an IGA.
No, I was spinning out.
Empty
that
shelves
spun
everywhere.
me out. Yeah.
You just wanted to buy a drink. They go, no drinks.
And I've been in the worst of the worst places that Sydney's had, like growing up down the block in like the late 90s, early 2000s in Redfern, which is notorious. And even that shocked me in Aids. I didn't expect that, a full empty supermarket. I didn't think no one expected that. Like that was shocking.
That shows the divide between the people who have stuff and the people who don't, right?
Yeah,
and you
of
see
course.
that more than anything in a place like Aids. There was also, I can't remember whether it was Claymore or Aids, where you were walking around with someone who was showing you around, and they said, have a look at this. We've got the primary school, we've got the high school.
Yeah, Aids, yeah.
And then we've got...
The juvie.
Juvenile detention.
Reedby Juvenile Justice Centre.
And it's almost like you
They're
go
all
from
touching.
one to the next to the next.
They share fences. Like from the school, I don't remember if it's the high school, I'm pretty sure it's the primary school, you can look at inmates and vice versa.
So what's
Like,
it doing
that's
to
crazy.
the kids who are growing up?
I don't know, eh?
They're probably thinking, all right, well, that might be me one day.
Yeah. Just to even be normalised that exists, that shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't be looking at, whether you think that could be me or not, you shouldn't be looking there and even having that debate in your mind.
What about Redfern? You mentioned Redfern and you spent a bit of your childhood there, and when you were wandering around Redfern, lots of memories coming back, but even looking in a window and realising, hang on a moment, there are people sleeping inside tents inside the units.
Yeah. In a way, it's worse than back when it was supposed to be worse. I don't remember people living in tents inside flats. But yeah, that's what's going on.
You recently went to Logan in Queensland, and there was a bit of drama there because you turned up, you were filming one of your videos for YouTube, and then everyone turned up because you live stream them, right? So people can follow and they realise...
No, I don't live stream them. That's something that I may be doing in the future, which would probably make that worse. But I don't live stream them. So what happens is I organise for a few of the relevant people to tell the stories, and obviously the word gets out. So people aren't excited because I'm doing an Into the Hood. People are excited because they've been following me for years and I've been helping them indirectly through what I do, whether it's like steering them away from crime or getting them off drugs, and which has always been an indirect thing that I've always done just by being myself. So when people see all these people going crazy for me, it's not because they've been riled up. It's not like no one's saying, hey, come and go crazy because it looks good on camera.
No, I understand that.
It's a genuine love, you know?
When you went to Alice Springs, now we've been covering the stuff in Alice Springs for over a year now, but you showed it, you saw it, where you got people running around with a machete, kids fighting in the street.
Yeah,
could you believe what you were seeing?
But you know what I couldn't believe out of that is just how unaffected the bystanders were. The bystanders just, like, I'm watching people get chased with a machete and people are just watching me. And I'm looking at them saying, hey, someone's about to get stabbed. And they're just like, oh, yeah.
Because it's normal.
It's just so normal. And, like, people will be fighting and I'll be looking. And I was like, there's a fight there. And they're like, so what? Like, in Sydney, and Sydney's supposed to be bad. If people are fighting, everyone's going to look. But there, it's just so normal. It's like, nah, I'm busy.
What do we do to make life better for some of these kids in some of these areas, and not just the kids, but the adults too?
Oh, well, what a question. I
wish I was that
people
smart. on a bigger pay grade than you and me to sort out.
Yeah, a lot bigger than me.
But at least you're showing it to people.
Yeah,
and you're not perfect, right? You're the first person to say, hey, I've made major mistakes in my life, right? That's why you went to prison.
Of course, 13 years in prison, And I say that's where I was raised. Shit life. And about it, it got me to where I am, luckily, Yeah.
We're going to have a chat during a longer conversation on the podcast just about where you are today. But a few other things that I've watched on your videos that stood out for me. Victimhood. Mm-hmm. You're not a big fan of victimhood. You teach younger people, hey, you may not have been brought up in the best household. You may not have the greatest family. You might have some problems going on, but you're not going to help yourself out of the hole by constantly thinking you're a victim. Can you speak to that right now for anyone listening who finds themselves thinking that they're the victim?
To me, it's just getting worse and worse. You just have all of these people who are going around making people feel and preying on their victimhood like it's going to help them. I don't know, me, for what I've been through, and not into depth about it, but getting off drugs and stopping crime had nothing to do with me looking at myself as a victim. It's just like, you do the thing happens, get on with it. That's it. You're either going to die crying about it or you're going to achieve something. You know what I mean? And I see too many people that they prey, and I feel it's for selfish reasons. They prey on people's victimhood. Like, this happened to you, poor you. I'm going to spend the rest of your life patting you on the back, like, I don't know, like, and I see it too much. I got sick of it, so I said something,
The other comment that you made that stood out for me is, it doesn't really matter where your family came from originally. You're Aussie, and you're obviously called the Spanian, but you go, but my family decided to come to Australia, and it's great that you're proud of your heritage, whether you're Lebanese or Greek or Chinese or Vietnamese or anywhere else. But at the end of the day, you're an Aussie. That's something you're proud of, right?
Well, I got that name in boys' homes because it's very racial in jail. And that's where I've seen all that. It's like, whatever your background is, that's your identity. And it's like, okay, in jail, I understand that gangs, whatever. But in the streets, it's like, I don't know, I see that as a weakness of Australian society. It's like, you have people that are 2-3 generations here in Australia that still identify from being from the other side of the world. Like, get over it. Do you know what I mean? There's a reason that we came here to Australia, because the place that you're identifying from, it ain't that great. Like, there's a reason we're here. Do you know what I mean? So you just got to accept it and understand that we're all, it just takes, I appreciate people's cultural identity and history, but when it's your full identity, it's like, it in my opinion, creates weakness in society. It divides us.
So I want to get to know you a little bit better, if I can, for the moment. I'm going to go way back. I want to ask about your mum. Tell me about your mum.
My mum?
Because I've heard a little bit of your story, and I know that your dad left, right, when you were born.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask about him as well. But first of all, the impact your mum has had on you. How did she shape you, and how is she? Is she still with us?
Yeah. My mum's she works in a women's shelter. She works in welfare, and that's always been her life. She's a good mum, but she was a single mum for me and my brother nearly our whole life. Well, our whole life. She's still single, and she's done her best, and we were on the border of being poor and hanging in there, and she's a hard worker. They're definitely not someone who ever condoned crime or was happy that I'd done it. But at the same time, she was definitely normalized to it. She was grown up. So I was born when my mum was 15 years old, and we were pretty much on the streets. And me and a 15-year-old mum around the area of Marrickville, and loosely associated in the slimy street crime scene, drug scene, and so she was normalized to that. So when I grew older and became a criminal, it wasn't like some shock, like some mums like, horrified, go to church. To her, it was just like, you're an idiot.
And the male role models, as we call them these days, that you had growing up, you had friends and family who were around, not dad, I'll get to dad in a moment, but they were people involved in crime. And when they'd talk about your dad and they'd try and tell you, hey, your dad was a really good guy, they'd brag about the fact that he was a great getaway driver. So you kind of had that. And I know you don't, again, you don't blame anything. You're not saying that this is what created me, but that was part of your life from day one.
Oh, definitely. Even who the person I see is my brother, which was my mum's younger brother, but we're very close in age. He was a heroin addict and a car thief, and would come back every night with all bags of stolen goodies like it was Christmas. And I'd be in stolen cars with him, going to 7-Eleven in the middle of the night, getting Tim Tams and Slurpees when I was like 9 years old, and doing burnouts in hotties. I knew what hotties were. When I was 7-8 years old, I knew the term hottie, which was stolen car. So that's
a very different childhood to the average person.
Yeah. But like I always say, that didn't make me a criminal at all. I could have been a soccer player. I could have been whatever I wanted. I never say that made me a criminal.
You chose this life.
100%. I chose to be a criminal. I guess it's hard to say why. It wouldn't just be from that. I think when my mum finally got housing, and we moved just down the street from here, actually, and I was introduced to the areas of Waterloo and Glebe and stuff, and it just continued that to be one of the boys and to be something respected and to be something great. As a man, you were, it was directly related to how crazy of a criminal you are, how good of a street money maker you were. So I always had that correlation in my mind. So I just made the decision, that's it. I'm gonna be the best criminal I can be.
Do you have any relationship with your dad?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. My dad's full, legit man, and he lives in Queensland and has a big family and stuff like that. Yeah.
You didn't get angry about the fact that he left the family when you were a baby?
Nah, I didn't get angry. They were 15-year-olds. He was like, I don't know the circumstances. I don't talk too much about it, but it's like a 15-year-old street kid having a kid to a 15-year-old street kid, and then they argue and they go live their life. Like,
you've spoken about growing up, and you were living in your household and you thought it was all relatively normal, and you only realised that it wasn't the same as other kids when you went to their homes. And when you said that, I thought, that happened to me growing up, right? Because I remember going to the homes of some of my mates and it was chaos.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I lived in the kind of normal home.
So you're the
right?
opposite, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the opposite, where I was living in the normal house, and then I'd go to some of my friends' houses and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? It was like a zoo. Lovely people, don't get me wrong. There was no less love in those households. Yeah. But that's the moment that you realised, hang on a moment, my upbringing's a little bit different to the rest.
Yeah, especially the kids whose parents were like Greek or Croatian or something like that. Like, you'd walk in their house and it's like a museum, and everyone's like, don't touch this and don't do that. And everyone's like, it's like, what's this? Like,
meanwhile, in your house?
In my house is like stolen car radios under one bed, and it's like kids are on the floor playing PlayStation, and it's just
Now, any regrets? Do you have any?
Do I have regrets? Nothing that stands out. I don't know. My life is the way it is. Like, I can't say that I have regrets. The way I always say it is, like, if you change anything in your past, you might not be here. Maybe the only reason I'm here and alive is because of the life that I chose. Some people say, and I've been asked on the radio before, do you feel bad? Do you apologize, or whatever the term was, for the life that you've led? And I'd say the best way that I can explain it, which does relate to what you just asked me, is that in the world that I grew up in, and you can call it the criminal code or whatever, if that still exists, there are things that are putrid acts. Very clearly putrid acts, and they are things that are stand out, you would agree, are putrid acts, things against old people, sexual crimes, children, like abuse of the weak and horrible things like that. And I've never done anything like that. The things I've done in my criminal life are like stolen computers and sold drugs and used drugs and stuff like that, had fights with other criminals. So because I've never done anything that I see as a putrid act, I just say, like, I done these crimes. I done 13 years jail. Get over it. I don't feel bad for me. I don't feel bad for you.
How young were you when you first tried drugs?
Marijuana 13, heroin 16. I guess that's
Who
the start
gave you
and the
heroin
finish.
at 16?
The first time I had heroin was with other 16-year-olds down Woolloomooloo. The older boys were all on the heroin. Heroin was the normal around the whole city, Woolloomooloo, Redfern, Glebe, and it's just a natural progression. You smoke cones, you get a bit older, you get on the heroin, you become a cool thief, you support your heroin habit, just normal stuff in the inner city of Sydney.
And how much would you be spending on drugs on any given day?
At the peak of my addiction, which probably was about 2006, so I was about 20 years old, injecting a very, very low part of my life, maybe $1,000 a day.
That's a lot of stealing that you got to do to pay for all the drugs.
Yeah. So, but back then, say if you want me to like talk how I supported it, a laptop would sell for $1,000 back in those days when laptops were valuable. So if I could just somehow steal a laptop a day, whether that's out the back of someone's car or someone left it and didn't look, then that's my heroin.
Well, what about at the moment, all of the car thefts at the moment? So this is happening in Sydney, but also big time in the bush. So major increase in car thefts. And a lot of the kids seem to be grabbing the cars, not because they want to steal them and sell them, but they want to drive them around, joyride them, film them, put them on TikTok, and get a name for themselves on social media.
Yeah, I heard about this.
What do you put that down to?
I don't know, eh?
And
I don't know. That's a very different culture.
And I don't believe in blaming one person for someone else's mistake or crime, but is there a chance that they're looking at people like you and the social media profile and whatever and thinking, all right, well, I want to be the next Spanian?
I guess everyone can interpret things. I can't sit here and say there's no chance they're doing that. The way you interpret the world is your reality. So there's just as many people could look at me, just as many angry, legitimate people could look at me and say, wait, he's a criminal and he talks about crime and he's famous. This is bullshit. But the same amount of people can look at me and actually listen to what I say, and then those same kids would be like, well, I'm not going to be a dickhead. Even Spanian things, Gronks do that stuff. It's just how you interpret it, and you got no control over that. I can't get around projecting myself so safely that I may not be misinterpreted. Like,
how did you get off the drugs?
How I got off the drugs is very unique. One day in prison, 21 years old, Junee Correctional Centre. I was in the peak of my addiction, and I don't know what it is, but one day I just seen myself for what it was. Up until that point, I didn't see myself as a junkie. I seen myself as a cool drug user, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, one day I just thought, I'm a full putrid junkie. I'm ugly, I'm poor, I'm sitting in a prison. I'm a criminal that's in jail and I don't even own anything. I'm not even getting out to a car. I've got no ID. Like, this is rubbish, at least. And at the time when I got off drugs, it was fully like selfish reasons. It wasn't some magic thing. I thought, like, if I'm going to be a criminal, at least I'm going to be a cool criminal. At least I want to own something. Like,
you've realised as life has gone on that you do miss out on a lot of things. If you're in jail, friends drop off, family drop off, and you just decided, hey, that might have been a part of my life. It's not going to define me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, like there's a point of no return when you're just spending your life in jail. Like, there's a certain age you get to, and it's like, if you've wasted your life in jail and around those people, like, what's the point of changing? And I don't know what that age is, but I was like in my early 30s, and I wasted my whole life up until that point. It's just like, that's it. Is this me? Do I die like this? Like, I've done everything in the criminal world. I've done, like, been a junkie at the bottom, and I've been a cool drug dealer that makes money. Like, where do I go from here? Like, is it just an infinite loop? And I thought, no, like, I would rather be poor and on the streets than go back to jail.
It's interesting. When we spoke about you recently, we had messages saying, watching this guy's videos helped me get off drugs, or helped me kick alcohol, or helped me turn my life around. And it's bizarre that they could have all of these well-meaning teachers and doctors and police officers saying, hey, don't do drugs. But it takes a convicted criminal and a former drug addict for the message to get through. How do you get the message through about, hey, listen, at some point, boys and girls, you've got to give the crime, the drugs, and all the other stuff a break.
I tell you what it is. It's being relatable. When it comes from somebody that is like them, or somebody that they aspire to be, or somebody that reminds them of their older brother who was a criminal, then it's a lot more relatable. And if the only way it can be real is if it is relatable. But I've been getting messages like that for years now. Like people that would send inboxes that are like so long you don't even have time to read it. For years, every day is like, you've changed my whole life. Now I have my kids back, and now I'm staying in. And it's like, to me, it's like, I don't know how I'm doing it. People play my videos in rehabs. People play my videos in juvenile justice centers, and then sit there and have talks about the lessons they learn from them. And they do this stuff. Like, I have teachers saying the schools talk about me in class, and I don't know how, bro. It's a blessing. You know, the biggest blessing is that I just go out and be my 100% self with no agenda. I don't have a political agenda. I'm not out to save the world as much as some people think I am. I'm not out to destroy the world as much as some people think I am. I'm just out to be me and do what I like doing, and it helps so many people all the time. It's what a blessing. If you want me to define how, I have no idea.
You had no idea how you did it.
No,
but you just
I'm
noticed
still doing it.
The messages started coming through, and then you thought, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. What about fatherhood? Have you got kids?
I do. I have 2 kids.
How old are they?
One's 11, one's 3. Yeah,
boys, girls?
Both boys. My 11-year-old's with his mum, who's my ex-partner, and my 3-year-old's with me.
Can you tell me a little bit about the kids?
Yeah, great. 2 boys. Love them to death. My 11-year-old goes to a great school in the city. My 3-year-old there, she's just, I don't know what to say. They're very lucky, very healthy, good-looking kids. They're the best. I love them.
Are you a strict dad?
I am a strict dad. Yeah, I am. I am a strict dad.
Hang on a moment. You were playing up the whole time.
I am a strict dad.
Spanian's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
You were misbehaving when you were their age.
Yeah. I guess, but maybe that's how the cycle works. Maybe it was the good people that are softer when they're older.
Do you look at them and think, hang on a moment, I've got to protect them? I've got to make sure that I set them up in the right way, give them the right lessons, because you want them to discover the things that you've discovered, but not wait until their late 20s, 30s, till they work out the game?
100%. I definitely feel they need to have the tools to survive. You know what I mean? Tools to protect themselves. I haven't put too much. They're still at an age where I haven't put too many thoughts into them that relevant to crime life or drug life or anything like that. But yeah, like, I'm very protective over them, and they will be good, strong men.
We appreciate you coming in, and we will wait to see your next journey. Not everyone likes you, right?
It's from the beginning.
It's called life.
Yeah, but the more people that don't like me, it's great. That's how I got where I am.
Some people don't like the fact that you talk about your life because you're a criminal.
Yeah,
but that's your life.
Yeah,
that's who you are. And in a bizarre way, it's connected with people.
Yeah, a lot of people want me just to be on my knees begging for forgiveness. And if I'm not, if I talk about my life with any type of pride or smile on my face, I'm the most horrible man on earth. But, hey.
How do you make $1?
Oh, just online stuff. How I do, like YouTube and stuff like that.
Crimes all in the past.
Oh,
these
of course,
days?
I make more money now than all of my crime life put together each month.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
You make more money now from what, YouTube, advertising, and all that kind of stuff?
Plenty more.
Content creation.
If I was a criminal, I'd be up there with the biggest of them.
You make more money now than you ever did out of all of
those
those
Don't make
crimes.
me get specific. You're going to have people trying to rob me now.
No. I don't think anyone would try that on. Just imagine you got into this YouTube stuff earlier. Then again, when you started out on your life of crime, there was no such thing as YouTube.
Yeah.
We'll be seeing where you get to next. And I really appreciate you coming in the studio. When we invited you in, I thought, I don't know whether we'll front up, but you said, yeah, I'll come in. And I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
Good on you. We'll catch you
mate.
again soon sometime.
Thanks, man.
There's Spanian. And you can listen to more of our radio show on 2GB Sydney. This is Ben Fordham.